Yeah, I'd like to share my story, um, parental alienation. So, yeah, a long time ago, 2005, I I was served with divorce papers from a woman that I'd known for 10 years and um, had been a father figure to her son for 8 years. I never met the actual father of the child. She'd rejected him. Um, and refused all contact. I should have sort of seen that as a warning sign. But so yeah, we divorced, and she broke into my place a bunch of times and stole everything she could lay her hands on. It's a familiar story to many guys. Um, but in the court, and then she went to a lawyer because everybody says you need to go to a lawyer and get these things done fairly and divide up the assets and all that kind of stuff. And so she did. And then in the course of the legal proceedings, I caught the lawyer committing fraud and failing to comply with a court order, and tried to resolve those two. But the judge, when I presented the transcript to prove conclusively that the court order that he'd written was incorrect, and he called up my ex-wife, the plaintiff, and requested what she had heard the judge say and preferred that to my evidence, the transcript, which I thought was a bit rich, because that's the best evidence that any Canadian can provide. So I made a complaint to both the BC Law Society, because I'm in British Columbia, as well as the Canadian Judicial Council, which is the body that's in charge of monitoring the conduct of judges. Um, the Law Society asked the lawyer for the he asked him for the trust account statement, but the lawyer refused to provide it. I guess, I don't know, but the Law Society refused to provide it to me, which was interesting, since I had a court order saying that he had to. But the Canadian Judicial Council claimed that it was just fine for judges to ignore the transcript, and they weren't going to investigate. And I thought that was improper decision, and sought to have that decision reviewed, and they refused to do so, and refused to submit it to Parliament to have full verification of that decision. And then they called it an abusive process when I asked for the conduct of the judge who made that determination that judges could ignore the transcript if they felt like it. And they called that an abusive process. But so then I kind of had left a bit of a wall there. I was completely broke, and I was in a new relationship, and I wanted to have kids to restore my faith in life. Kids are they're the new beginning, right? They're the source of life on this earth, right? That's what men and women are on this planet. That's what all life forms seek to do, is to reproduce. It's a fundamental part of being alive, is reproducing. And it is true. We do get a sense of new beginning from our children. Gives us faith in humanity when we see that innocence and that trust that children have for their parents. And so I had children, and I got two boys, and they're now 10 or 11. They just turned 11 and 13. And so I did that. But when the kids were younger, like they were 6 and 9, um, the ex and I broke up because I had no real future prospects. I was completely bankrupt, and she wanted me to stop fighting the legal system, and be a slave, and have no rights, and I wasn't really prepared to do that. So we split up and went to a lawyer for a separation agreement and got all that done. I didn't really have any rights in the whole process. It was kind of meaningless. But we did it. And then a couple of years later, she went to a lawyer, and she basically was looking to get sole custody of the kids, and was working in that vein. I never did see the child of my first relationship ever again, after that traumatic divorce and all the fraud that went on. But so the mother of my children, she saw all this trauma, because she was witness to the last 6 months of my divorce, and she saw the devastation that this all caused. And but she then sought to abuse me, through the legal system. We had a separation agreement, and she bypassed the separation agreement, made a bad faith attempt at mediation, and then brought up nothing that she brought up in mediation to the court. She just used the mediation as a just went through the motions. She actually wanted to double up the amount that she wanted me to pay, and I, of course, wasn't going to agree to that because that wasn't in the separation agreement. But that was her attempt at mediation, was extortion. And so then it went to court, and because I had no rights in court, I didn't attend, because at that time, I was going to be just saying I'm in contempt of court, and they would throw me in jail, which hadn't really got my arguments together. But I was working on an argument, and it is based on the Charter of Rights, that we have right to fair and impartial trials and fundamental justice. And obviously I felt if I could not report crimes or report a lawyer for fraud in the legal system, then I didn't really have rights in the court system. Or so that was what I was working on establishing, and I did that through the court process. And in the meantime, my ex took the kids, and took them for 3 months, and it was devastating for the children, and for me. The kids had no idea what was going on. They were 9 and 6 at the time, and just no idea what was going on, or why their mom would take them away from me. And I've gone from spending, like, I was the primary caregiver. I had a broken leg when they were kids and babies, and I was toddling around with them for 3 years, looking after them. I was the one that took them to kindergarten and to school and all this kind of stuff. So I'd done everything with them. We had a very tight relationship, and that was important. I think it's very important. We get caught up in this idea that the legal system can solve the problems, but that's entirely not the case. Only you can solve the problems. If you've got a problem with parental alienation, you gotta just spend all the time with the children and realize that you've got to build trust with your children, that they know that they can trust you. And so that's what I did. I didn't enter the legal system to fight for the children. I knew that wasn't going to work. Children don't need you to fight through the legal system. They just need you to be a parent, and they need access you need access to the children in order to do that. And that's the problem that the legal system has, is that they're obviously not in the best interest of the children. It's just a device of war, and lawyers are profiting from creating conflict, and it's a pretty simple. And they have complete knowledge of your finances, your financial capacity, and they're in the business of taking it away from you. And so anyway, the kids were away for 3 months. And I saw my youngest. He was scared of me, like absolutely scared. I tried to maintain contact, and he'd obviously been um, communicated with by the mother, and scared, like physically scared. Terribly traumatic for a parent to see that, and I'm sure it was traumatic for the child to see that, feel that, and not understand why he was feeling that. So then, and then my eldest, he just wanted to see me. So anyway, the mom had promised that they would return by April 15, and then March 15 came around, and all of a sudden, she was realizing that she wasn't going to be able to to steal the kids, basically. That the kids had a tighter bond. Um, and so the kids came back. And it took a year. It took a solid year to restore trust, for them to kind of go, huh, what's going on here? Who do we believe? And I didn't say anything about the mom. Um, and it's hard. It's hard to defend yourself or to talk about your story when you can't say anything that's going to affect their integrity with their mother, because that's important to them as well. And so, how do you balance that? It's incredibly hard. But I think they eventually saw through it, and saw that they could see what was going on, and I didn't need to say anything more. Um, and But we still got this problem in Canada, that the judiciary claim that they can disregard the transcript and that they are conducting themselves in the best interest of the child. Um, Obviously, that's just not true. So, in that regard, I made a charter complaint using the enforcement procedure of the charter, and I was requesting Parliament to review the conduct of the Canadian Judicial Council and judges in general. Um, the claim that they can judge themselves is just incorrect in law and in fact, as proven. So I went through the court system, and working through that. And then I also went through into Parliament and politics, and tried to get politicians and the media to pay attention to the story, and that's challenging. But because what the problem is that what I uncovered was a failure in the rule of law throughout the legal system, and that extends into politics as well. Is that our political leaders obviously kind of need a justice system as well. We all do, but we want one that's functional and that is fit for purpose. And that's kind of the problem that we're running into in Canada, is that the justice system, particularly as it got adopted into the family law system as well, it's a system of abuse, and it's designed that way as a function. That's what it was always for. And so anyway, that's ongoing situation, is we're trying to resolve the legitimacy of the legal system, and that's what I'm working on. And you can see my work at fundamentaljustice.com. And I'm on Twitter at Rule of Law Canada. And just trying to get democracy back on track. Thank you very much.